Hello. One of the challenges that the professional installer, home builder, or contractor has is how to pick the correct sealant for any specific application. Clearly, there are a number of different factors that go into making that choice. Today, we're going to give you some specific information that should make that choice an easy one for you to make. In a few moments, you're going to be able to see a number of side-by-side demonstrations that shows Dupont weatherization sealant against a number of types of products that are currently used in the field. We're going to be looking at things like water washout resistance. We're going to see how that the sealant choice actually affects the adhesion to specific substrates. And finally, we're going to take a very close look at how the extrusion rates, or how easy it is to gun the materials when either the temperature is warmer or if it's down near freezing. Each of the window demos you see here were set up exactly the same way. Dupont Tyvek Home Wrap was used as a weather barrier in the frame. Dupont Flex Wrap was applied on the windowsill. That a bead of sealant was uniformly applied to the jambs at the head of the opening. A window was inserted into the opening, allowing the flange of the window to completely contact the sealant. Finally, screws were used to secure the window in place. A 3-week cure or dry time was allowed so that the sealants being tested had the opportunity to reach their maximum adhesion level. This time exceeded the minimum cure time stipulated by the sealant manufacturers represented in this testing. You've just seen the window installation that we used to put together the adhesion studies you're about to see. Please remember that on a typical job site, you may have to use other practices to have an appropriate window assembly. Now let's take a look at the window that was installed using the Moistop urethane-based sealant. We've just seen Andrew remove one of the adhesion test assemblies, and this particular one was the Moistop sealant. What we can see is that there was some adhesion to the Tyvek paper, although not in all areas. Some paper tear, but not quite a bit. On the flashing itself, you can see that there's very little deformation, very little adhesion to those areas. If we take a look at the window assembly itself, we can see that some of the OSB board was torn off the wall, so it had reasonable adhesion there. And the adhesion of the sealant to the window itself is fairly good. You can peel it off with some effort. It's not too bad, but at least it has some adhesion. Let's see how that compares to the Vulcum 116 sealant. We've just seen Andrew remove another window from one of our adhesion assemblies. In this particular case, we're looking at the Vulcum 116 sealant. What we can see is that the product had fairly low adhesion to the Tyvek Home Wrap, as well as the Flex Wrap product. Why that's important, obviously, is if you don't have good adhesion, it's very simple for water to make its way past the seal, and that would be a failure in the field. We can see that it had this particular product had fairly good adhesion to the OSB board, but you can see that the sealant has transferred away from the window and onto the wall, which means the adhesion to the window itself is fairly low. You can see that this is material should peel off very easily, and it does. And again, it's fairly easy to continue to remove that product. The next assembly we're going to look at is based on the NovaFlex silicone sealant. We've just seen Andrew remove the assembly that utilizes the NovaFlex silicone sealant. As you can see, there's essentially no paper tear and no indication that there was any adhesion on the Tyvek home wrap at all. The flashing shows the same issue. No adhesion, no deformation. There was some adhesion to the OSB board, and as we can see from the window itself, there was some transfer of the wood to the window. And I will also say that the sealant seems to have very good adhesion to the window itself. See that? This low adhesion, though, in this area, again, is an opportunity for water infiltration, and that could be a failure on the job site. The next product we're going to look at is the Dupont weatherization sealant.
Keep going.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, we've just seen Andrew remove the test assembly that was put together using the Dupont weatherization sealant. You may have noticed also that we had to actually come out and help hold the assembly while Andrew removed it. We had quite a bit of strength needed to remove the window from the assembly. I'm going to start right here on the flashing this time. You can see an enormous amount of paper tear that we hadn't seen on any of the other assemblies. And as you move up, you can see that there was significant paper tear on the Tyvek home wrap as well. Quite a bit in this area. What we also saw when Andrew tried to remove the sample is that there was very good adhesion to the OSB board behind it. That's pretty clear when you take a look at this window assembly. And you can see that there's significant transfer of the OSB board to the sealant. It's actually ripped it off the wall and transferred it without removing itself from the window. You can see here, if you try to pull off the sealant like we've done with some of the others, I'm pulling the sealant quite hard. And you can see the elongation, but you can see it's still adhering quite nicely to the window itself. Let's see if I can pull it a little harder. Again, very good adhesion. Why is this important? We go back to some of the things we've said before. When you have good adhesion, it maintains a tight seal, and therefore you do not get water infiltration behind the sealant, and this again will give you a good window assembly and one that will perform well in the field. We've had the opportunity today to look at a number of different assemblies and how the choice of sealant affects the adhesion to typical construction substrates. What we've seen is the Dupont weatherization sealant does the best job of adhering to a wide range of these construction substrates, and that's going to give you the best opportunity for successful installation.